This is a toy spot on DC Universe Classics Wave 11. This is figure 7, and this is the modern, or the green Steppenwolf. And if you've watched my review already of the Superpowers variant, this was the Steppenwolf that I'll likely have on display with my other DC Superheroes figures. It's a little more in continuity-wise and I guess time-wise, it's a little more consistent with the other line. While I like the other variant, I do like the green Steppenwolf much more. As you can see, first time in 6 inches. And actually, I think with Catman Tui, I also asked what was the original figure. I'm wondering if maybe, especially with Mattel, I don't think Mattel would advertise another company. I'm wondering, I think it was the DC or the Justice League Unlimited figures, because I'm pretty sure there was a Justice League Unlimited Steppenwolf and a Catman Tui. I may or may not be right on that, but down below you can see a picture of Steppenwolf. Now it isn't actually this Steppenwolf that they've got in the picture. They've got the Superpowers Steppenwolf, which is rather interesting. On the side here you can see that this Steppenwolf, very similar to the other one, comes with another figure stand. On the back, the other figures in this wave that build the Kilowog figure, we've got Catman Tui, we've got Shark, Deadman, we've got Cyborg, Superman, The Question, and Jon Stewart. The biography, I'll read this anyways. I know I read it for the Superpowers Steppenwolf, but I read this one anyways. Uncle of Darkseid, ruler of the warlike planet Apocalypse, Steppenwolf commanded the Apocalyptic military, looking to bring about a war between Apocalypse and its sister world, peaceful New Genesis. Darkseid suggested that Steppenwolf travel to New Genesis and hunt its residents for sport. In implementing the plan, Steppenwolf killed the wife of New Genesis ruler Isaiah, and war commenced, and Steppenwolf was slain by Isaiah. Darkseid later resurrected Steppenwolf and placed him in charge of the planet's military once more. First appearance, New Gods number 7, 1972. Real name Steppenwolf, occupation military commander, base of operations, Apocalypse. Powers and attributes, superior strength and speed, cable snare, weapon, fires energy beams, expert swordsman, wields electro axe. So there you have packaging on Steppenwolf. Let's get this guy opened up and we will get a better look at the figure. So stay tuned, guys. Don't go anywhere. Much like the Superpowers Steppenwolf variant, the modern or green Steppenwolf also comes with a figure stand. And I'm fine with the fact that they include the stands. I mentioned this already with the Superpowers variant, but I like the fact that they've included stands. Granted, energy projectiles or energy constructs for Kilowog would have been fantastic, but at least we get stands, right? It's guaranteed there's some figures that we have that don't want to stand very well, and these stands come very handy. So we'll put that aside, won't look at that anymore. The other accessories that he comes with is, I don't know the technical term for it, but it's his war horn. If he wants to summon his armies. He also does come with a sword, which is a rubbery plastic material. He also does come with a whip. And again, it's a rubbery plastic. Especially the fact that it shoots energy, kind of reminds me of the Ferengi whip. It was like in episode 4 or something of Next Generation. Ooh, nerdy, I know. But yeah, it does kind of remind me of the whip there as well. He does hold everything pretty well, and I like the fact that he's got his horn too, because you can have him calling the armies. And especially if you had parademons, this would be ideal. You could have him holding his horn, which I keep dropping everywhere here. You can have him holding his horn and calling the army of parademons behind him. You know, the one thing that would have been nice on the figure is somewhere that you could clip his accessories onto. Yes, the war horn you could have him holding, or the sword or the whip, but the fact that he's only got 2 hands and 3 accessories, it would have been nice that they would have had, you know, like a clip or something you could, you know, put his accessories on, especially like if you could roll up his whip and, you know, clip it onto his belt or something like that. But I like the fact that they've given him as many accessories as they have. And we'll just put the accessories down for the time being. And we'll look at Steppenwolf here. As you can see, a very pointy hat. He's got a very tall hat, which makes him taller than most DC Universe figures, even though he's utilizing the exact same sculpt. Speaking of sculpt, as you can see, they've done a great job of sculpting some of the cloth. The cape is done very nicely, and I like the little fringe on his sleeves. Much like the DC the Superpowers variant, they've moved the sleeves further back, much like they did with his shoulder pads. That allows you then to be able to bend his arm. The only downside, though, is this whole area here is just bare, but I mean that's nothing big. He's got a nice coloring. He's got the really vibrant yellow, and then they've done a darker yellow wash on the arm as well. A bit of a paint flake issue, which is consistent with most yellow painted figures, because the yellow is not plastic. The yellow usually is applied over top of the plastic. And as you can see I think in the elbow joints here, you can see there's flaking in the same location. And I'm sure as you move the figure more, that may or may not flake off in time. But the green is nice. It's definitely a nice color. And there's really a lot of additional stuff they've added to the figure, aside really from the basic mold. They've added enough to the figure that the figure itself looks different than other universe bases or molds. But he's really, really nice. The articulation on this figure is that you can move his head left to right. You can't really do anything else because of this collar that's on him. You can slightly move the head up, but not by a lot. As I mentioned, his shoulders. You can swivel the bicep, but not by a lot because they've added this extra sleeve, this little shoulders fluff. Frill, if you want to call it frill. You can bend the elbow, rotate the wrist. You can bend at the torso. And surprisingly, actually, this doesn't get in the way at all when you bend the torso. You can rotate the waist, but not by a lot. You can bend the leg in and out, back and forth. You can rotate the thigh, bend at the knee. And the interesting thing is, too, is that this is a extra piece that they've applied over the knee. So you can still bend the knee, and this doesn't get in the way. You can also bend the foot as well. As I've mentioned with the DC Superpowers variant of this figure, while I like the Superpowers figure, and I like the fact that it was a nice nod to the 80s kids that grew up, I like the modern version of Steppenwolf a little bit more, just because he is, time-wise, he's a little more consistent with like the Darkseid, the Kilowog, or not the Kilowog, the Calabac. Oh, I almost forgot his name. But to have him with the Parademons, the Calabac figure, this figure fits in a little bit better than the other Steppenwolf. For that reason, I would say if you had to get one Steppenwolf, you'd want to go with this one. If you are a big Superpowers fan, of course, go with the other figure as well. But this figure, I would give a 8. A great figure, great coloring. Shame with the flaking, and it's a shame that they didn't put little clips on his belt to hold his weapons. But aside from that, it's a fantastic figure. This also is the very last figure of this wave. The only other figure I still have to review is the very large Kilowog. So stay tuned for that, guys. In the meantime, that was a toy spot on DC Universe Wave 11, and this was the modern or green version of Steppenwolf. And hope you guys enjoyed it. and I'll see you guys next time. Later.